Years ago, we started this journey together. It will be our mission to help drive change in Florida's impotent texting laws, a fight to stop texting and driving on Central Florida roads. And now, our voices have been heard, and together, with your help, it's become law.
Thank you for coming and having the courage to speak up.
You spoke truth to them, and they listened.
We're going to be saving lives. I mean, this will make such a huge difference.
Thank you, Central Florida, for seeing a problem and getting results. This is it, a long, hard journey that started 3 years ago, now finishes with pen being put to paper. Because we work to get results, texting and driving is now a primary offense in the state of Florida.
You guys have had a great impact on making improvements to our state.
Our roads are safer.
This will make such a huge difference.
And countless lives can be saved. But our work continues because News 6 will always keep pushing to get results.
Breaking at noon, texting and driving now a primary offense. Governor Ron DeSantis putting his signature on the bill that's been a 3-year mission for News 6. Certainly a very big day for the state of Florida. Glad you're with us. I'm Justin Mormon.
I'm Bridget Ellison. Governor DeSantis held a signing ceremony in Sarasota about 90 minutes ago. And we have team coverage with News 6 reporter Nadia Yanis and Trooper Steve. But we start with the man who started this all, News 6 anchor Matt Austin, live in Sarasota. Matt, you've been pushing for this driving change since you were hit by a distracted driver nearly 3 years ago.
That's right. It happened right by our station. And I keep thinking back on this moment when I was interviewing a representative named Richard Stark in South Florida who first put together a texting and driving bill 3 sessions ago. I asked him, what are the chances this bill actually gets signed by the governor? He told me straight up, slim and none. This is not going to happen for a long time. Well, 3 sessions later, we watched here at Sarasota High School as Governor Ron DeSantis signs that bill into law. Take a look as it happened. The governor signs that. It becomes a primary offense in the state of Florida, which means a police officer, as of July 1st, will be able to pull you over if he sees you texting and driving. Now, if you're in a school zone and a construction zone, it goes even further with making it hands-free there. So let's listen in to see what the governor had to say.
It's my hope that by taking action to address distracted drivers today, that we will be able to make our roads safer and hopefully prevent some of these crashes that we've seen, injuries, and unfortunately some of the deaths that we've seen. So, as they've said, it has been a long road for us, both literally and figuratively. We've driven thousands of miles. We've done about 100 stories on this topic. And so throughout the day today, we're going to show you some of the fights I've gotten into with lawmakers and some of the families who have lost so much because someone just had to send a text while they were driving. It's going to be a big day here on News 6, guys. I'm going to send it back to you.
Live, getting results. This is News 6 at 4.
Now at 4, News 6's driving change push becomes a reality. Governor Ron DeSantis signs the distracted driving bill into law. The bill now makes texting and driving a primary offense. This is News 6 at 4. I'm Ginger Gadsden.
I'm Julie Broughton. And I'm Lisa Bell. The new law means officers can now pull you over if they catch you typing on your phone while your car is moving. News 6 has advocated for more than 2 years for stricter texting and driving laws in Florida. Our push to get results began in 2016 after News 6 anchor Matt Austin was rear-ended by a distracted driver. Every legislative season, we traveled to Tallahassee following distracted driving bills, and year after year, they failed to pass until this year. News 6's Matt Austin is back from Sarasota, where the law was signed this morning. So, Matt, what was it like to be there to witness this bill finally being signed into law?
I can barely believe it, ladies. It feels like a Kia has been lifted off of my shoulders. We found out yesterday evening this bill was being signed today in Sarasota. So my producer and I left the station after the 11 p.m. news so we could be in place early this morning. We got there about 2 a.m. The governor's office chose Sarasota High School to highlight not only the importance of the primary texting law, but also that Florida is going hands-free in both school zones and construction zones. He admitted change will not be easy, but it is on the way. I caught up with the governor as he was leaving that press conference. You said enforcement is the key in this texting and driving bill. What would you say to police officers who are going to be in charge of enforcing this in the next
I think
year?
like when the law takes effect, if they come out and show it's going to be enforced, then I think people are going to get the message. And so, it is going to require resources. But at the end of the day, if people are convinced that they're going to end up with points on their license, a fine, then they're not going to want to do it. And I think the fact that it was a secondary offense meant that, people they could still do it without really much of an effect. So hopefully they'll have a plan to do that. That'll send a message that there's kind of a new sheriff in town on this, and our roads will be safer as a result.
So there is a new sheriff in town. Now, this has been a long time coming, and it started off with us going to Tallahassee and basically arguing with lawmakers, trying to get them to pay attention to this when we were told there was no chance it was going to happen. Eventually it did. Yeah. We're going to show you parts of the process of the people we've met along the way, the people who have lost loved ones from texting and driving, and the politicians who were not so happy to see us along the way as well.
Yeah, and it's been a long time coming. And I know this is something that, generally when we do news stories, it impacts our viewing area. This is something where 20 million people are now going to be safer on the road. So when you talk about change and getting results, this really is one of the biggest changes, I think, that we have been involved with.
Yeah, they looked at thousands of bills this session. I think you'd be hard pressed. There's a lot of very important things, but nothing impacts everybody, whether you drive a car, ride a bike, if you take your kid to school, if you work in a construction zone, hopefully you'll be a little bit safer. I mean, it's a crisis right now. More than 50,000 distracted driving crashes happen every year in our state. We are the second worst in the country. If we could just improve a little bit.
And Matt joins us now in studio. He was in Sarasota this morning for the official signing. So, Matt, it has taken a long time to get to this point.
It's been quite a long road. In 2013, Rick Scott did sign a bill into law, but a driver could only get ticketed for texting and driving if that police officer witnessed them breaking another law first. It was a secondary offense. Each year, lawmakers tried to strengthen the law. Each year, they failed. But this year, things have come full circle, and we made it our mission back in 2016 to drive change in Tallahassee, but this truly was a team effort to stop distracted driving. These are some of the faces of Floridians dedicated to driving change. Mary Van Reenen, her son was seriously injured by a texting driver.
I think I was numb for a few days. I think it took a couple days to actually sink in that my son was still safe, but 2 men had died.
Marcia Waldron, her mom was killed on State Road 27 by a driver looking at his cell phone.
To me, there was no difference in causing a death from reaching in the floorboard for your phone versus a DUI.
And Demetrius Branca, his son Anthony, was killed in Tallahassee by a driver texting on his phone while behind the wheel of a service van.
Every day, 11 people are dying. Every day. If this were a terrorist organization, you would be doing everything you could to stop them. But I don't see you doing anything right now.
When our Driving Change campaign started 3 years ago,
I believe texting and driving is just as dangerous and in some cases more dangerous than a DUI.
Florida law enforcement already knew there was a serious problem.
We've got to do something to make our roads more safer for everyone.
But they were frustrated in the slow response by state lawmakers to do anything about it.
Government needs to pass laws that keep their citizenry safe.
But one lawmaker made it her mission to change the law.
There's more distractions than ever on our roads.
In 2016, Emily Schlossberg was in her first term in the Florida House. 20 years prior, she was a passenger in a car involved in a head-on collision in Boca Raton. 5 teens were killed in the wreck, including Schlossberg's twin sister, Dory.
There's nothing that I can do to go back and get my sister to come back. I'll never get her back. But it's what I could do after to honor her memory, and I'm going to do everything I can.
For 3 legislative sessions, Schlossberg sponsored or co-sponsored bills for a tougher texting law. And while Schlossberg tried to change the law in Tallahassee, News 6 persevered with trips that took us all over the state for interviews and confrontations. Eventually, we started to get results.
It's been correctly reported that you guys have had a great impact on making improvements to our state.
In 2017, 1 texting and driving bill out of 4 was heard by committees. Last year, 2 out of 4 bills were heard by committees. But this year, Schlossberg's co-sponsor bill not only made it through all committees and was approved by the House, but that House bill was also adopted by the Senate.
108 yeas, 7 nays, Mr.
So the bill passes.
I truly feel like real-life Avengers. You know, we're going to be saving lives. I mean, this will make such a huge difference.
You are agents of change, and I want to say thank you guys for helping us.
So it has been a long process. A lot of people have kind of joined the team with us that have allowed us to tell their stories. It's been a true honor. And, you know, I got to fight with a lot of politicians, too.
Which is always
Which
fun
you
and
actually
entertaining.
enjoyed.
That was a little more fun than the rest of it.
And certainly so many people are celebrating today, but it really is a bittersweet moment for so many people who are still dealing with the pain of losing their loved ones to a distracted driver.
Yeah, a lot of these families have made this their mission, you know, like they've focused on this. It's really helped them, I think, to grieve in some ways. So I think they're a little relieved, like I am, to not have to go to Tallahassee so often, but I definitely, you know, you feel for them.
And knowing you have a daughter that's going to be having a driver's license soon.
A year and a half, that's happening. So one of my goals was to get this done before she was out there driving on the roads.
Hashtag agents of change.
I like that.
I really like that a lot. All right, Matt, thank you.
Thank you. First, though, nearly 3 years ago, I was hurt in a car crash. The other driver was texting behind the wheel. That crash started News 6 on a mission to drive change here in the state of Florida and push for tougher, distracted driving laws. So glad you're with us tonight. I'm Matt Austin.
And I'm Ginger Gadsden. It's all been leading up to today when Governor Ron DeSantis signed a new law making texting while driving a primary offense.
I was there in Sarasota for the event. It happened this morning. We brought you this moment live as it was happening. Prior to signing the bill, Governor DeSantis spoke about the dangers of texting while driving, pointing out that Florida had ranked second worst in the nation for distracted driving. That starts changing today. In addition to Governor DeSantis, the architect of this distracted driving law, State Representative Jackie Toledo, also spoke about what it took to drive change here in Florida.
But this journey began long before all of us. And all the hard work and dedication is what brought us here today. This law is about saving lives and making our roads safe.
Representative Toledo's support was crucial to our effort to help end distracted driving in Florida, but some of our lawmakers needed a lot more convincing. In fact, when we started this, very few lawmakers would even discuss the issue.
Yeah, you got some time. Come on. Come on, we want to talk to you about texting and driving. You were the one no vote. When we first arrived in Tallahassee. Senator Brandis, how you doing? You don't have time to talk to us? Most politicians avoided questions about texting and driving.
Matt, I wish I could stay, but I've got to get back in and vote.
You were just standing here a minute ago. Why do you have to go now?
I was talking to some people around here.
Just a couple questions about texting and driving.
Can I come back and talk to you?
Yeah, you can. In 2017, we got to sit down with then Speaker of the House, Richard Corcoran, and things got awkward.
But do you respect the opinion of law enforcement?
Is that really a question?
Yeah, it is a real question. Do you respect the opinion of law enforcement?
Why wouldn't I?
Well, because law enforcement officers think that our texting and driving laws are not only weak right now, but they're actually dangerous for the people they serve.
I've talked to a lot of law enforcement officers.
Can you tell me the name of a police officer who has said, I think our texting and driving laws are great the way they are?
Yeah, I could tell you a lot of police officers, but I don't think that's the issue.
Months after this interview aired, something surprising happened. The House Speaker changed his mind.
I think you guys do a good job of making people aware of what's going on, what's not being done, and what needs to be done. And so I think that it's been correctly reported that you guys have had a great impact on making improvements to our state.
The 2018 legislative session saw a big change. A texting bill cruised through committee and passed on the House floor 112-2. But another politician hit the brakes. In News 6's push to drive change, things were going so smoothly, but we may have hit a roadblock, and there is a look at him. As we reported, Senator Rob Bradley decided to kill the bill in committee. It never saw a vote.
A lot of people in Florida didn't vote for you, don't know who you are outside of your district, and you're stopping legislation that could impact the entire state. That's not very democratic.
And I think that's a fair question. And I will tell you that we're a representative democracy. We're not a pure democracy.
Then, this year, during the third legislative session of the News 6 Driving Change Initiative, we got results. The House and Senate both passed sweeping changes to our texting and driving laws. And the bill no one would discuss 2 years earlier was the talk of Tallahassee. Lawmakers noticed News 6's impact.
You are agents of change, and I want to say thank you guys for helping us.
So driving change here in Florida became a personal mission to me after that crash, but this is an effort that has been supported and worked on by the entire News 6 staff. We all watched on as Governor DeSantis signed that bill into law today.
There it is.
So we're celebrating a big victory for the entire state of Florida. Now we're watching to see how this law works, what kind of impact it will have on the safety of our roads. I actually hadn't seen that because I was in Sarasota, and it's choking me up. So I'm going to need you to do the rest of the talking.
No, you know what? It's so impressive, Matt, because you put yourself out there. 21 million people, their lives will forever be changed because you chose to not just take something sitting down. You did something about it. I'm proud to sit next to you right now.
Thank you, but you know what's impressive is that these people here have my back.
We know of the dangers. We know that Florida is growing and the roads are populated, and because of texting and driving, thousands of injuries and deaths are occurring each and every year in the state of Florida.
All right, so this bill goes into effect July 1st. All of the warnings turn into tickets beginning in January of next year. Some people not going to be so happy when they get the tickets, but hopefully it cuts down on all the texting and driving.
Yeah, exactly. I've been reading some comments on our Facebook page, and people were like, why couldn't it go into effect June 1st? You know, they just wanted as soon as possible.
It goes,
yeah. And this has been a long, arduous journey for you, and it seemed like time after time you were really close, and then one lawmaker would stand in the way. Did you ever feel like,
That's right.
Did you ever feel like just like, okay, forget it?
Yeah. Yeah, I did. This is one of the most frustrating, I would say, projects of my career. In fact, going into this legislative session, our boss, Allison McGinley, called me in for a meeting and said, what do you want to do about driving change this year? You know, she's a force of nature, this woman.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I don't really know if I want to do it. You know, I'm tired. I feel like a loser every time I go. I fight with these people in Tallahassee and, you know, nothing happens and I look like a big fat loser on TV. And she said, well, would you rather look like a guy fighting for something good and lose, or look like a quitter?
Ooh.
She got me with that one.
That was a drone from behind that wall.
I know, I heard it from the teleprompter back there. So just to say, our bosses not only supported me, but a lot of times they carried me through, and I appreciate that. So she didn't know I was going to say this, but...
Yeah. Well,
Very
we're
nice.
all fortunate to work with you, and we're fortunate to work here at News 6.
Absolutely.
Thank you,
It's
Matt.
paid off.
Yeah.
All right, breaking live right here. That is State Representative Jackie Toledo. She has sponsored the texting and driving bill in the House. They are just moments away from voting on this. And this is so basically the House voted on an original version. You might, if you've been paying attention to this texting and driving campaign, they voted on a version, sent it over to the Senate. The Senate then amended it, making it a stricter version, making it so you had to use hands-free in a school zone or a construction zone. And then they sent it back to the House. The House has to vote on it now. And if they do, it goes directly to Governor Ron DeSantis' desk to be signed.
We are this close to having distracted driving become a primary offense here in Florida.
That's right. One of only 4 states left in the country to not allow police officers to pull someone over if they see them texting and driving. So right now they're talking about it. We will let you know as soon as that vote comes down. Could be any minute.
Breaking now at 6. Just moments ago, the State House passed an amended bill on texting and driving. The bill now heads to the governor's desk. Good evening. I'm Lisa Bell.
I'm Matt Austin. Glad you're with us. It will make texting and driving a primary offense, which means officers can pull someone over if they catch them typing on their phone while the car is moving. News 6's Nadine Yanis joins us live from Tallahassee with the latest on this. Hey, Nadine.
Hey, Matt. Well, the feelings here at the Capitol, I'm sure, are what you're feeling inside your heart and inside that newsroom. This has been something that we have been pushing for so incredibly hard here at News 6, driving change and getting results to make Florida roads safer. And we are one step closer. This is the closest the bill has ever been. And, of course, it's been a fight for us for the last 3 years or so, but it's been a lifelong fight for Representative Emily Schlossberg, a co-sponsor of this bill. First, how are you feeling with this bill passing?
Incredible. I mean, this is
the first time that Florida is going to have texting while driving as a primary offense in our state. So, you know, we are actually getting, we are going to save lives.
Results in our push to drive change, a bill that toughens Florida's texting and driving laws, is now headed to the governor's desk. We brought it to you as breaking news live on News 6 at 5:30 as it passed the State House earlier tonight.
So for 2.5 years, it has been News 6's mission to make the road safer. I was hit by a driver who admitted to texting and driving. News 6's Nadine Yanis is in Tallahassee tonight with reaction.
For the last 3 years, News 6 has made it its mission to get results and get to the lawmakers behind those doors to drive change, pushing for stricter texting while driving laws. Florida was one of 4 states who didn't have them, and today's final vote changes that.
The clerk will unlock the machine and the members will proceed to vote.
The sound of a doorbell is opening the door to save thousands of lives on Florida roads.
108 yeas, 7 nays, Mr.
So the bill passes.
And the sounds of applause is the ending of a long road to get results.
I truly feel like real-life Avengers. You know, we're going to be saving lives. I mean, this will make such a huge difference.
Driving change has been a mission of News 6's Matt Austin in our newsroom for 3 years now.
Well, don't forget, we got to go back at least 2 years ago, maybe more, that he had a Don't Text and Drive town hall.
And for Representative Emily Schlossberg, it's been her mission her whole life.
You know, I lost my twin sister in a car crash, and so the reason I'm here is you know, to honor her.
For the 2nd year in a row, she's worked across the aisle with Representative Jackie Toledo, this year on House Bill 107, which started just as a texting while driving bill, but ended in a compromise with the Senate.
We only had texting and driving, and the Senate had the hands-free, so we put the two together, and now we have hands-free in the areas with the most vulnerable people, school zones and work zones.
You are agents of change, and I want to say thank you guys for helping us.
And beyond those doors is the last person that needs to say yes to this bill. It now heads to Governor Ron DeSantis' desk. We have reached out to the governor's office both Friday and today. We are still waiting to hear back, but Representative Toledo seems confident that the governor is going to sign it. We will see. Until then, we're in Tallahassee. I'm Nadine Yanis, getting results, News 6.
This is News 6 at 11. Getting results.
All around Florida, it's a common sight. People daily with their faces buried in a phone driving 2-ton bullets. So it should have come as no surprise to me when last month a young man who was texting while driving plowed into the back of my car while I was waiting at a stoplight. This was the result. Now, I can't tell you everything that happened that night because my baby's car seat slammed so violently into the back of my head, it knocked me out, gave me a severe concussion, and 10 staples in my scalp for my troubles. The car totaled. In the emergency room that evening, the OPD officer told me the driver admitted he was texting while driving. So days later, it came as a real shock when I received the police report and saw not only did the other driver not receive a ticket, but the officer didn't even note in the report the young man was texting. This is the reality of cars and cell phones in our state. Some Floridians think texting while driving is just no big deal. And because of the way our laws are written, police officers are almost powerless to stop it. If you're caught glancing at your phone in a hands-free state like, say, Utah, you could be fined up to $750. If you get into an accident in Utah while texting, a driver faces up to 15 years in prison and up to 10 grand in fines. But what about Florida? Because of our state and the way it treats as a secondary offense, a police officer can only write a ticket for texting while driving if a driver is pulled over for another reason entirely. But when police do cite drivers for texting behind the wheel, how much does it cost? Well, in Florida, a first offense earns you a fine of $30. And that's what happened to me. Even though the officer told me the young man admitted he was texting while driving, the officer didn't see him doing it, and the texting was left out of the report. Here's how absurd it is. It is possible a driver could literally text a selfie to an officer while driving, and because that officer did not witness the violation, you might not even get a ticket. Here at News 6, we pride ourselves on getting results. And over the next legislative session, we're going to be doing just that. It will be our mission to help drive change in Florida's impotent texting laws. And no, it's not because I got hurt. Lots of people are getting hurt. The reason I'm doing this is because of what's normally
in my back seat. These three beautiful girls are usually crammed back there. And last month, if the situation were a bit different, they could have buried their dad. And to me, that is simply unacceptable. I'm going to blink, and they will be driving around these same Florida roads with these same dangerous laws unless we do something about it. But to enact change, I will need your help. And I don't want you to help because of me or even because of them. Help because of the little ones in your backseat. If you or your family have been impacted by texting and driving, tell us about it on Facebook. Maybe we can use your story to drive change. And if we collectively make it our mission, our duty to effect change, together, we will get results. So if you have a story in which texting while driving has impacted you or your family, we want to hear it. Maybe we can use that story to drive change. Go to clickorlando.com. This story is going to be right on the homepage. Scroll to the bottom and tell us your story. I know it's not easy to always open up. In 12 years of doing this, I have never done that before.
Yeah.
That was just my allergies, by the way.
Sure. Well, I'm going to tell you it's not my allergies, and it hit me when I saw your beautiful daughters because I know how much they mean to you. And we sit here every night and we do stories about people who lose a parent because of something stupid like that.
Yeah.
And those kids have to grow up without a mom or a dad, and that shouldn't happen. And thank God it won't happen for your kids.
Yeah, it's true. And hopefully we can do something to make this make a little more sense.
We really have to make changes. So thank you for sharing that story. I know that was tough.
News 6 has been showing you several stories focusing on the dangers of texting while driving.
Yeah, since a crash in September left me with staples and a concussion, we have made it our mission to bring awareness to Florida's ineffective texting while driving laws through our Driving Change initiative. So tonight, a story of a woman killed by someone who reached for a cell phone. Some of the images you're about to see are graphic.
I lost my mother to an automobile accident. She was killed by a 19-year-old who lost control of his vehicle while trying to get a hold of his phone out of the floorboard.
1 year ago, Marcia Waldron's mom, 76-year-old Martha Jackson, died in Polk County while driving back to Avon Park.
There's a certain amount of time it takes her to get to my grandmother's house, and she normally calls us when she gets here and starts unloading.
Martha Jackson's Toyota Corolla was hit head-on by a Ford F-250 driven by this man, Daniel Lightsey. According to the Florida Highway Patrol, Lightsey said he had dropped his cell phone and while reaching for it, lost control of the huge pickup.
He spun back through the northbound lane, going through the median, ending up in the southbound lane, landing on top of my mother's car.
This is the aftermath of that accident. One person dead, two vehicles mangled, with the Corolla unrecognizable. The airbags and safety equipment of the 2,800-pound Toyota was no match for the 6,000-pound 4x4.
To me, there was no difference in causing a death from reaching in the floorboard for your phone versus a DUI.
For Marcia and her sister, the pain of their loss was further intensified when during sentencing, the judge failed to notice Lightsey was responsible for their mother's death. Lightsey, who was only charged with careless driving, was given a $164 fine.
My sister sent letters to the judge and the clerk of the court who did that hearing, and both of which said they had no idea. But all over the police officer's accident report had with a death involved, with the death of my mother.
When the judge resentenced Lightsey, the final outcome still didn't seem very fair to the family. Lightsey's license was suspended for 6 months. He was fined an additional $1,000 and was ordered to perform 120 hours of community service in a trauma center.
He still has a life. And my mother lost hers at 76. And as my grandmother gets ready to turn 101, we have a little longevity in our family. And he took that away from her.
Now, we checked with the Polk County Clerk of Court this afternoon. Daniel Lightsey has not started any of his mandatory community service. Also, we're told he has not made any payments of his $1,100 fine. Lightsey was also arrested last July for knowingly driving with a suspended license. He has a court hearing coming up later this month.
Good evening and welcome to a special News 6 Town Hall Driving Change. I'm Matt Austin, and we are serious about getting results and pushing lawmakers to toughen up our texting and driving laws. We are streaming this conversation right now live on clickorlando.com, our mobile app, and at facebook.com/news6, and we are thankful that you are joining us. This hour, we will hear from law enforcement, advocates, and lawmakers both for and against our drive for change. We'll also hear from victims and the loved ones who were left behind. Kim Montez, you're the Florida Highway Patrol. Now, you patrol highways. You would think people would never be texting while driving 60, 70, 80 miles an hour.
You know, my guys tell me routinely that they see it all the time. I see it at patrolling our roadways. And it's a challenge for us to get that person pulled over, as the other two chiefs have said, unless they're committing a violation, running a red light, running a stop sign, weaving, driving too slow. We can't stop them. All we can do is try and get their attention. They see us in a marked car and hopefully they put that phone down. But a lot of times, that's at one time. They're going to go right back to it. And we have had crashes where we've pulled the phones out of the dead person's hand that's been driving. And we know they've been texting. The numbers are going to be underreported for crash stats because the fact is we have to be able to prove it before we put it on a crash report, as you have seen personally. Yeah. We know there are way more crashes occurring out there that are because of texting and driving and distracted driving, but because we're not able to articulate and prove it, those numbers are underreported. We know more people are dying on the roads because of distracted and texting and driving.
Well, texting from behind the wheel is bad enough, but it's even worse when drivers are doing it in a school zone. Now, in November, we heard from someone on the front line and a state senator who says Florida lawmakers sometimes just can't even vote on their own laws. To students from Southwest Middle School,
have a good weekend.
This
Thank you.
is Joanne Howell's turf at the intersection of Malabar Road and Eldron Boulevard in Palm Bay.
You're gonna have to hurry.
Joanne has worked as a crossing guard for the last 2 years.
You're safe, honey.
But like many others in this community,
People are texting and driving and texting and driving.
Joanne is worried.
And it's worse and worse and worse every year.
Did you see Joanne just point to a car? She did it 3 times for News 6 in less than 15 seconds. Joanne was pointing out different drivers looking at their phones while speeding along this busy stretch of road, right through the intersection used by her kids.
I believe texting and driving is just as dangerous and in some cases more dangerous than a DUI.
Palm Bay Police Chief Mark Rankin says texting from behind the wheel distracts drivers from their primary task, safely driving a car.
You shouldn't be texting at all when you're driving, period, whether you're in a school zone or not.
Howell thinks the fault with Florida's nonchalant attitude toward texting and driving lies squarely on the shoulders of state politicians. As a secondary offense, cops can't pull you over unless they see you breaking another law.
It's a very bad situation. It's one that's going to continue to get worse unless lawmakers crack down and say, yeah, okay, I'm mad as heck and I'm not going to take it anymore and we need to put a stop to this.
My bill would have made it a primary offense if you're texting and driving to protect the life and protect the safety of our children.
In both 2015 and 2016, State Senator Geraldine Thompson had school zone texting bills die in committee, never reaching the House floor for a vote.
So many times bills do not come out of committee. Many times they're not even placed on the agenda because you have a group of individuals from various places, could be business, that are opposed to it and convince the chair not to put it on the agenda.
Texting and driving needs to be a primary offense with a big ticket to it, a big dollar fee attached to it, and maybe even community service along with it. Too many people have been maimed and mutilated and killed. It's not worth it.
I think we might need her on Capitol Hill here. Crossing guard Joanne Howell joins us now live in our audience. Joanne, thank you so much for being here and for telling us what you go through every day.
Thank you for having me. I'm getting very passionate about this.
Well, you know, once it affects you, once you see it right in front of you, it is so hard not to get involved. Well, so tell us, how much do you see it in front of you? Say in a week. What would you?
I would say 75% of the cars that pass me on the corner. They're
75%.
Easily.
And this is in a school zone, correct?
My corner is not a school zone, but I do school zones also.
Okay.
And we have parents that are coming in with their children and they're texting or they're talking. They're missing a golden opportunity to have conversations with their children. They really are, and that's another reason it needs to stop, besides the fact somebody's going to get killed. These children, they don't pay attention.
While most people opposed to these toughening laws are more on the conservative side, like we've spoke about before, they don't want more laws intruding on themselves. There's also a contingent like State Representative Bobby Powell, who is a Democrat, and he says this particular bill would just give law enforcement another reason to pull over a minority. He's a member of the Black Caucus. Let's listen to what he has to say.
What do you say to those people who have had loved ones who have died as a result of texting and driving, who say, this is a no-brainer? What do you say to the parents or the sisters or the cousins or the grandmothers who say, this could have been prevented?
Well, I think that's a good question. And it's the way you framed it is, what do you say to those parents? I would respond to that like this. We've created many laws here in the state of Florida. And I live in Palm Beach County. There's a homicide that happened on Chillingworth Street last night, Chillingworth Avenue. And we have gun legislation on the books. Because we've created laws, laws has not prevented someone from taking an activity or doing an activity.
Okay, so we see his reasoning for fighting against this bill. I want to go back out to Emily Schlossberg. Emily, what do you say to that?
I want to say, when the first year that the seatbelt law went from secondary to primary in Palm Beach County, there were 40,000 citations issued. Last year, there was under 10,000 citations issued, meaning primary enforcement of the seatbelt law creates compliance. It forces compliance. So taking that over a step to the no texting while driving bill, making it a primary offense, will create compliance with the law 100%.
Well, News 6 has been working to drive change in Florida's inept texting and driving laws.
One thing nearly everyone can agree on, texting and driving in a school zone is a terrible idea, but you still cannot get pulled over for doing it.
So News 6's Matt Austin confronted lawmakers about why these bills have not been passing. So Matt, what did you find out?
All right, so in last year's legislative session, a bill to make texting and driving in a school zone a primary offense never even made it out of committee. That means the people you voted for never got a chance to vote for it themselves. So I asked new Speaker of the House, Richard Corcoran, why? And frankly, things just got weird. So listen carefully to his answer and keep in mind, this is the first time I asked him this particular question. Well, let me ask you this. There was a bill filed last year. It said it would make it a primary offense to text and drive in a school zone. That bill did not even get talked about in committee, much less come up for a vote for the people that Floridians voted for. That seems like a common sense bill. Would you back something like that?
You're asking the same question twice or 3 times or 4 times. The question...
Well, no, this one's different. This one's in a school zone.
You're asking, oh, a school zone. I thought you were talking about texting again.
Yeah, it's texting and driving in a school zone was the bill last year that never saw the light of day. I mean, just hearing that, I mean, texting and driving in a school zone, that is wrong according to, I would say, a large percentage of people. Do you feel like it's okay to text and drive in a school zone?
What you're asking is, and what's the big problem that's been in those other 40 states, the thing that people are looking and trying to figure out how to do it, is the enforcement mechanism. So we already have a law in the books that says distracted driving. So if that person's going through that school zone and they're behaving as someone would in a texting situation,
doing something else, speeding or something else.
No, just distracted in the sense that you would be if you were putting on makeup, or if you were texting and not looking straight ahead. You can get pulled over and you can be ticketed for distracted driving.
And now, did you hear that right? What he said right there is absolutely false. This is the most powerful man in Florida's House of Representatives, and in his answer, he appears to be ignorant of the laws in which you pay him to govern over.
I have called a local police chief. I have looked over this law myself. I can confirm you cannot be pulled over for distracted driving in a school zone or anywhere else. This is what we're fighting for. And if you're wondering how big this problem is, at our Driving Change town hall meeting last month, we spoke with a school crossing guard.
Somebody's going to get killed. These children, they don't pay attention.
Yeah.
And even with us as crossing guards, it's very difficult for us to rein them in some days. They're just going to go happy-go-lucky. They're not going to stop to think, I got to make sure these cars are actually stopping. Oh, I got a crossing guard to do that for me. Well, we've had guards hit. And not just from texting and driving, but because the drivers aren't paying attention.
So again, what seems like common sense legislation moving nowhere.
So what were you thinking when he said that distracted driving in a school zone is a primary offense when we all know it's a secondary offense? Yeah,
it was the strangest that, you know, a good journalist would have asked a follow-up question saying, what are you talking about? But it was so out of left field, and I wasn't expecting. It was kind of like if you asked somebody if the sky is blue and they told you it was purple really convincingly, you would almost think, well, I haven't been outside in a couple of minutes.
Or if Tom's standing in a rainstorm.
Yeah, exactly. It's the Speaker of the House. Maybe I missed something, but I looked over everything that it makes no sense. If it were true, we would have nothing to talk about here.
So this is what everyone's up against. And I will say, I've been reading comments on our Facebook page, and most people are in agreement that something needs to be done. But there are some people who are saying, okay, you guys are being so political about this. If you want to be a politician, be a politician. But it's not about being political or a politician. We're actually trying to help people stay safe.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm a news anchor, you know, but first and foremost, I'm a dad. My kids are going to drive on these roads. Henry's going to be driving on these roads very soon. And nothing seems to be changing. We see the dangers out there every day.
We see the evidence of it. I guess that's what's so frustrating, because we hear from law enforcement agencies, they see it, unfortunately. We see the fatal accidents, we see the injuries.
And they have reached out to us.
And we know that it's a problem. And we're wondering why there is such strong opposition, and we've yet to figure that out, because even companies that may have given these politicians some money, like Verizon, for example, you can go on their website, and they are clearly against distracted driving. So you wonder, why are they opposed to it?
I spoke with our political expert, Jim Clark, over the phone. I was asking him the same thing. He says the problem isn't that people are paying them to be against it. He says the problem is no one's paying them to be for it. There's no money in traffic safety laws. There are no lobbyists out there.
They're not going to waste their time writing a law or debating a law unless someone is putting money in their pockets.
That's what people who are in the know have been telling me.
Wow. Matt, thank you. And of course, you can share your texting and driving story by heading over to clickorlando.com/change, driving change. Read stories from others and tell us yours. You can do that right on our website. Thanks, Matt.
April 1st is the start of AAA's Distracted Driving Awareness Month, and we here at News 6 have been pushing for tougher texting and driving laws since last year.
One of the political allies in this fight has a personal story to tell. It shows just how dangerous distracted driving can be and why we're working to drive change.
I looked into my twin sister's eyes, and she looked scared. We all looked scared.
Florida State Representative Emily Schlossberg
Nobody said anything, and about 15 seconds later, we get into the crash.
Relives the horror of a night that changed her life.
The next thing I know is I wake up in the hospital bed in the trauma unit of Delray.
And you were 14?
I was 14 years old.
So did you say there were 9?
There's 9 people in the car.
In what kind of car?
A 2-door Honda Civic.
Wow. 21 years ago, on this stretch of road in Boca Raton, a 19-year-old driver slammed his car into a pole, then spun head-on into oncoming traffic. 5 teenagers lost their lives that night. One of the dead teens was Representative Schlossberg's twin sister, Dory.
There's nothing that I can do to go back and get my sister to come back. I'll never get her back. But it's what I could do after to honor her memory, and I'm going to do everything I can.
Schlossberg is one of a growing number of Florida politicians calling for tougher laws to combat distracted driving. Last month, AAA released statistics focused on motorists of different age groups. Its conclusion, young millennials top the list of worst behaved drivers. Dangerous driving behavior includes speeding, running red lights, and texting.
In 2015, deaths caused by distracted drivers across the country increased 8.8% over the year before, jumping from just under 3,200 to almost 3,500. Closer to home, the Florida Highway Safety and Motor Vehicle Division noted in 2015 distracted driving played a role in 16.2% of injuries from crashes and 7.3% of all statewide fatal accidents. For Schlossberg, the accident that claimed her twin and almost killed her still resonates with her today.
Cell phones are with all the apps, the Snapchat, the Facebook, the texting, it's incredibly more dangerous. There's more distractions than ever on our roads.
Are you still impacted from the wreck? Have any of the injuries lingered for you?
Physically, I'm okay. Yeah. But you know, every day I know what my mission is. I'm not confused. I know some legislators come up for certain reasons, and I have a personal reason, and I have no confusion, and I'm totally focused.
Representative Schlossberg is the primary sponsor of one texting bill and a co-sponsor of another. Unlike her companion bill in the Senate, neither of her bills has even been heard by any of the subcommittees they have been assigned to. So what's your personal story? How has distracted driving affected your life? Share it with us right now on clickorlando.com/drivingchange. Just click on the link and share your story.
The trend continues. Florida lawmakers manage yet again to avoid passing texting and driving laws that might actually keep you safer on the roads.
50,000 crashes in Florida last year caused by distracted driving. So I went to Tallahassee last week to ask why they refused to make this a priority. This time around, though, we had some unexpected backup. A dad whose son was killed by a distracted driver. He wanted answers too, and he crashed our interview to get them.
The challenge has been there hasn't been a consensus reached on it, and so let's reach consensus and move forward.
Consensus around hands-free. Can I ask one more question?
Sure.
Listen, my son was killed by distracted driving. It is horrible, but every day 11 people are dying. Every day. If this were a terrorist organization, you would be doing everything you could to stop them, but I don't see you doing anything right now. So can you tell me why?
Sir, we're not going to have this conversation here.
Why not?
Because we're just not. I appreciate it, sir.
Can you answer my question?
So tomorrow I'm going to try to explain a system lawmakers are using to keep meaningful legislation from happening. Basically, they want to bore you so you stop paying attention. We think you should know about it. And I stood with that dad in the gallery right outside the House floor as we watched everybody huddled around screens and very excited about matters that were more about business than saving people's lives. He was extremely frustrated, and I share his frustration.
Well, and it's, you know, you just have to trace the money and what organizations and lobbyist groups are paying lawmakers to prioritize.
It's just not a topic that has money behind it. So this is what we're finding, but hopefully I think you'll find it very interesting what we have to share with you tomorrow night at 6 o'clock about this very topic. Well, tonight I want to tell you about something happening in Florida you may find as an abomination of democracy. It's called a subcommittee. I know you just fell into a vocabulary-induced coma, and that's what politicians are hoping for. So I'm going to break this down into terms anyone can stay awake to and show you why efforts to strengthen texting and driving laws have failed up to this point. So we're going to use brackets like we use in sports playoffs to illustrate how committees can silence your vote. This is truly March Madness, okay? So to become a law, a bill normally needs to make it through the House. This side is going to be our House. And a similar version has to come from the Senate. That's over on this side. As the bill progresses through committees and subcommittees, they eventually will meet in the middle to become law. The House version had 3 committees to get through. You can see them on this side. The Senate version had 4. The common ground versions are then molded into a kind of championship bill, which you'll see right here. It then gets voted on. But that's not what happened this session. Some of those committees and subcommittees, they didn't want to play the game at all. And this is how bills get stuck. Only 2 committees heard the bill on the Senate side. That's what happened. It was a dominant performance. No committee heard texting and driving legislation on the House side. Not one. They never discussed it one time. That's it. Game over. Debate on the bills never came up again. Cinderella story finished. Here's a rep who wrote one of those bills.
It gets locked in that drawer, and the chairman just doesn't pull it out of the drawer.
And that's it.
And that's it.
It's done. We're done for the whole set.
It's dead in the drawer.
God bless America. Way to go, democracy. No one ever talks about your bill.
Nobody ever talks about it.
That is not democracy. Democracy is not at work here. What we have at work here is money. Money is the only thing that moves legislation.
While I was in Tallahassee, I met Demetrius Branca. A distracted driver killed his son Anthony 2 years ago. Now he spends a lot of time at the Capitol.
It's incredibly difficult sometimes to wake up in the morning and know that he's not there, but that motivates me to get up, get my feet moving, and get here and talk to some of these people who are entrenched in their ideology and won't do the right thing for Florida.
In the gallery of the Capitol, as I tried to ask lawmakers why they can't make meaningful laws, Branca could not help but join in on the interview.
To me, it just gives the illusion. Hi, my name is Demetrius Branca. I'm sorry. My son was killed by a distracted driver.
This guy was really impacted.
I'm happy to talk to you, but I prefer to do it off camera if I could. No, I just heard something you said, and I wonder where that comes from. You said the data is inconclusive. I'm more than happy to have this conversation with him.
He's more impacted than I am.
I'm more than happy to have a conversation with him.
So you might say at the end of the day, maybe these committees were just too busy to ever look at the bills. So you want to know what some of them talked about? How about a license plate that has an eagle on it? 4 other specialty license plates made it through a committee. They also discussed the sign height requirements in Broward County, but that committee that passed all of those through never had the time to talk about texting and driving, something that affects every Floridian.
And we'll say it again, one of the reasons why a lot of the bills get the support that they get in the state legislature is because there are lobbyists behind those efforts who have contributed to various campaigns that all of a sudden these bills and these efforts become a priority for
lobbyist-heavy bills like, say, the liquor wall we saw the other day. That one got 6 hours on the floor as opposed to 0.
Another popular bill that a lot of parents have been fighting for, recess. Again, it was brought up in the Senate, but no mention in the House this year.
Not much behind
recess in schools.
Yes.
A big day in our push to drive change.
Yeah, Matt Austin isn't here because he's in Tallahassee today getting results. This morning, Matt testified to lawmakers about our state's current texting and driving law and why it needs to change. Matt went there to tell his own story and ask for lawmakers to consider making distracted driving a primary offense. Back in 2016, a driver who admitted to texting while driving hit Matt from behind, leaving him with a severe concussion. Here's part of his testimony.
Today I am not in front of you as a journalist. Today I am here as a dad. Okay, so I got kind of pushed into this whole thing. In September of 2016, this crisis wound up literally in my back seat. It was after work. It was midnight. I was driving home. I was stopped at a stoplight, and I just remember hearing this deafening noise, and then I woke up. I was rolling through the intersection. I was foggy, and I felt this drip down the back of my head, and when I touched it and looked, I was covered in blood.
So Matt joins us now live from our state capitol.
Yeah, and Matt, the bill passed another committee today. And, you know, I've seen people, they've been high-fiving you, patting you on the back, saying great job. Tell us about the reaction you're getting there.
It's been a really good reaction. If you are somebody who wants texting and driving laws who actually have some teeth to them, today was a very big day for you. And people keep asking me on social media, okay, you keep saying that these bills are passing committees. What does that mean? How close is this to becoming a reality? So we made a graphic for you. I want to kind of show this to you in case it's been a while since you've been at school and learned about the House and the Senate. So, of course, we have the House and the Senate here at the state capitol. Now, this bill has passed several committees. It has breezed through these committees on each side, the House and the Senate, but there is one committee left in each one. Now, it's not done after that. After that, then it goes to the House and Senate floor. They both come up with their bills. Then they merge the bill, and for this to become law, it has to go to the governor's desk, and he has to sign it. Today, News 6 spoke with Governor Rick Scott. Here's what he has to say about the legislation.
First off, I'd hope everybody would not text and drive. Second, you know, I'm very supportive of eliminating the ability for, I mean, I don't want people texting and driving. I want everybody to be safe. I've got, you know, just like you, we all have our families, and I don't want somebody down the road being distracted.
None of us want that, but it certainly was a good indication that it seems like the governor is on board with this, and for this legislation to essentially become law in the end. He's going to have to sign it. Right now, there's a lot of momentum behind better texting and driving legislation here in Tallahassee. Ladies, back to you.
Yeah, we've been saying it nonstop. The 180 that all of these politicians have done in just 1 year is really nice to see. So put a little pressure on them and you can see some change.
Yeah, and I feel like there's a schoolhouse rock to be done there on how a bill becomes a law, because that was a great explanation, Matt. We all remember that. Thank you very much. Good job today. And to watch Matt's entire testimony this morning before the Florida Legislature Judiciary Committee, head to clickorlando.com. We've posted it in the Getting Results section. Tonight, News 6 takes our mission to drive change to the state capitol. Our very own Matt Austin testified in front of state lawmakers today, detailing his experience with a texting driver. He's been at the forefront of our fight to change the law for more than a year. But as Matt's about to explain, some lawmakers have waited much longer to see results.
Advocates for stricter texting and driving laws would have told you a bill like this passing this committee last year would have been a pipe dream. But the momentum is swinging and things are changing here in Tallahassee when it comes to texting and driving. Tell us what the chances are of this bill that you guys have filed getting passed by the State House and becoming law here in Florida.
Well, I keep saying the same thing, which is slim and none.
More than a year ago, we spoke with a frustrated Representative Richard Stark. His texting and driving bills had died during committee meetings for years. But then News 6 got involved.
Our job is to review the data and put laws on the books that work and will move the needle on certain.
And by pressuring lawmakers and putting texting and driving at the forefront, 2018 is looking a lot different.
Last session was disappointing and frustrating and a little disheartening, but the moment I stepped into the first committee meeting in, I want to say it was September, October, I kind of got a feeling that things were on our side.
Texting and driving bills in the House and Senate have breezed through the very same committees that killed them years before, giving hope for stiffer laws people like Stark have been fighting for years.
I also want to commend you. I mean, I realize, you had your own altercation out on the road that wasn't fun, it wasn't something you want, but you knew firsthand. And sometimes it takes the power of the media to drag us across the finish line.
Now, the bills in the House and Senate still have a long way to go. Both have one committee left. Then they go to the House and Senate floors for full debate. After that, those bills will be merged, sent to the governor's desk, where he told us today he plans to sign it. In Tallahassee, Matt Austin, News 6, Getting Results.
And that is progress. To watch Matt's entire testimony before the Florida Legislature's Judiciary Committee, head to clickorlando.com. We've posted it in the Getting Results section. Well, as the Senate committee plans to meet in Tallahassee today, lawmakers will not be hearing anything about a Senate bill aimed at making texting and driving a primary offense.
The bill hit a roadblock as the head of the Senate committee is holding up the bill. Matt Austin has been pushing for change with texting and driving for more than a year now. And Matt, the bill isn't even on today's agenda.
No, it appears to be dead in the Senate. We went to Tallahassee to talk to the major players in this yesterday. The bill has passed through 6 committees between the House and Senate, only to die at the hands of one senator, Rob Bradley. He says he won't allow the bill to be voted on by your senator because he's protecting your privacy.
And if you were to try as a citizen to say, officer, I was just looking down, I wasn't texting, I wasn't doing any of these things, I wasn't looking in my directions, then at that point you're in a position of having to hand an officer your cell phone and show them what you've been doing, how you've been doing it, and I think that's an unnecessary intrusion.
I want to say he's speaking low because I pulled him out to the side of a committee meeting that was happening right next to us. Now, keep in mind, this bill specifically says an officer must tell you you do not have to hand over your phone. These protections are built in. Speaker of the House, Richard Corcoran, says this privacy argument just doesn't make sense.
We have, out of all 50 states, the language that we have in there that protects your privacy and protects your rights and your civil liberties is the greatest in the nation. So that's, to say that that's a concern at this point when we're #1 in the nation in how we crafted the legislation would be, I don't think that's a valid point.
By the way, the bill hits the House floor tomorrow. Corcoran says it wouldn't surprise him if it passed unanimously, even though the Senate
won't even be voting on this issue. Julie?
All right, Matt, thank you. To read about the bill and see how News 6 has been working to get results to make the roads safer, head to our website, clickorlando.com/drivingchange.
Well, I think I know what we'll be working on for next year.
Yeah.
You know, it's like
Right.
you can't let it go.
Gotta keep going.
And by we, I mean Matt.
Yes.
For the past 2 years, ever since I got hit by a distracted driver, we've been driving change, pushing for stronger texting and driving laws. Well, now tonight, new numbers are out for Florida, and the news is not good at all. Last year alone, more than 50,000 crashes were blamed on distracted driving just in the state of Florida. And an emerging trend shows Orange County is a dangerous place to drive.
First thing I thought was, wow, that was a hard hit. Second thing I thought was, I'm really hurt.
That's all Jill Fritsch remembers after her SUV was rear-ended by a driver on Colonial Drive in Orange County.
The first driver did not admit it to the police officers when he was asked. However, his passenger did admit that the driver was texting.
The crash left Jill bruised, in pain, and in need of physical therapy. Her rehabilitation was going well until a second crash, this one on Cimarron Boulevard, and much more serious. Her mom was trapped in the car, and Jill was clinging to life when EMS arrived.
The second accident, the 19-year-old girl was on her phone, dropped the phone, reached down for the phone, and the officer thinks she hit the accelerator.
From 2013 to 2017, Orange County ranked worst in the state for distracted driving deaths. During that same 5-year period, Orange also led the state in distracted driving crashes. And how many texting while driving tickets were written in Orange County last year? According to the Florida Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles, just 74, less than 1.5 tickets each week.
We know that it kills. It kills innocent people on our roadways and our citizens.
Orange County Sheriff Jerry Demings, soon to be Orange County Mayor, is a strong supporter of the News 6 Driving Change Initiative for a tougher texting and driving law.
Our ultimate goal is to really improve the safety of our roadways, and one of the ways that we can do that is to change the secondary violation of texting while driving to a primary violation.
Strong words and common sense, but of little comfort for Fritsch, permanently disabled and left with a mountain of medical bills.
It only takes a second to injure yourself or injure somebody else. Put the phones down while you're driving. Please put the phones down.
Please. So we've been tracking distracted driving crashes for the past 5 years and how Central Florida compares to the rest of the state. Find our special online report at clickorlando.com/drivingchange. And if you look in other states that have implemented the stronger texting while driving, the hands-free states, their distracted driving crashes are actually going down.
There's all sorts of evidence. Law enforcement agencies are asking for it. However, the same people are still in Tallahassee.
And the same people want to do nothing about it.
We'll see if we get the same results.
The state of Georgia just did it.
Yep.
I mean, they
did.
Well, because
and they're already
saving
seeing
lives, you
and
know?
buddy, they're on it. I mean, you drive up there.
And people are frustrated. They're frustrated getting injured and getting behind someone who's distracted. It's terrible.
Don't get us started.
Yes.
We could talk all night about it.
All right, well, tonight we are getting results and driving change with a push to end texting and driving. You'll remember I went to Tallahassee earlier this year after I was rear-ended and injured by a distracted driver. That law, though, never passed. Well, now a Tampa lawmaker wants to make it illegal to use your phone at all in the car with your hands. They want to make it a hands-free state. News 6's Eric Von Anken was at her press conference earlier today in Tampa.
Here we are again. The same Tampa lawmaker who almost made texting and driving a primary offense last year is back to try again starting next year. This time, though, her law would be much stricter. Touch your phone at all in the car, get pulled over and get a ticket. That's why she chose FHP headquarters to make her announcement this time.
That means you can't be on your phone, regardless of what you're doing, whether texting and driving, looking at YouTube or Snapchat or any of those behaviors that you should be doing while you're not driving.
State Representative Jackie Toledo says this time she thinks her fellow Tallahassee lawmakers will pass her bill because it takes away the confusion for drivers trying to follow the law and police trying to enforce it.
This completely takes that away and says, if you're touching your phone, you are breaking the law. It simplifies the bill and simplifies the laws.
Toledo and News 6 pushed hard last year with our Driving Change campaign to make texting and driving a primary offense. It's currently a secondary offense, meaning you can't get pulled over for it unless you're doing something else illegal, which is why so few tickets have been written. But a state senator from Gainesville, Rob Bradley, pushed back and blocked last year's bill in his committee, the final committee in the home stretch. And the crashes continue to pile up. Orange County has been the worst in the state in distracted driving crashes for the past 5 years. The new legislative session starts in January. It will take months again for this bill to work its way through Tallahassee, and we will be there again every step of the way, driving change. In Tampa, Eric Von Eichen, News 6, getting results.
Thank you, Eric. News 6 is committed to helping end distracted driving on Florida roads with our Driving Change coverage, raising awareness about Florida's distracted driving laws, which are some of the weakest in the country. You can read more about our efforts to get results for improved safety on the roads. That's at clickorlando.com/drivingchange. Well, tonight we're driving change, trying to clear up the confusion over a new distracted driving bill from a Tampa lawmaker.
If it becomes law next year, it would ban you from even holding your phone in your car. So what exactly does that mean? News 6's Eric Von Eichen was in Tampa yesterday for the announcement of this bill and is here now getting answers for us. Eric?
Lisa, Matt, we've gotten a ton of reaction from all of you on Facebook. This story has been commented on and shared hundreds of times, largely with people wanting to know, how do you use your phone for other things like GPS if you can't touch it? Well, the lawmaker says, so here's the key. You're allowed one touch.
This is a hands-free ban, so it doesn't matter what you were doing on the phone. It's completely against the laws.
A day after the Tampa lawmaker announced her new distracted driving bill, she clarified what hands-free means. No touching your phone except for one tap to answer or decline a call, for example, she says. So how then do you use your phone in the car?
Just wait. It's that simple.
News 6 traffic safety expert Trooper Steve says you wouldn't use your phone in the car unless you have a Bluetooth hands-free device. But this viewer writes, people use their phone as a GPS, you know.
I do know that. Set it before you leave the house, guys.
And that relates to the concerns we're hearing from Uber and Lyft drivers, like this one asking, how would this affect rideshare drivers?
It should not make any ride-sharing taxi driver's life any more difficult. If anything, it should make it safe for them, because now they have a reason not to be distracted on the road.
And safer for you if you're riding in that car?
Oh, absolutely. As a passenger, I don't want to see my driver messing with their phone.
And the other big concern you have is how effective this proposed law would be. This viewer believes the law would be unenforceable and wouldn't stop people from doing foolish things. Some people say, well, there's laws against speeding, but people still speed.
But I can
Why
also
would this work?
Well, because I can also pull you over for speeding. I technically can't pull you over for just texting.
Right now.
Right now. Pass this law, things will change.
Representative Toledo says the same hands-free type law in Georgia just went into effect there, and within the first month, fatalities dropped 25%, she says. And Trooper Steve is convinced that would happen here. He says crashes would drop here dramatically as well.
And it really could happen if you hit people where it hurts.
There you go.
In a place like the Wallet, have they talked about how much one of these tickets would cost?
I went through the bill, guys. There's no numbers in there at this point. It could be a fine. It could be points on your license. It could be a combination of both. Now, right now, for perspective, I can tell you texting and driving, getting a ticket, if you were caught and pulled over for that, is $114 for reference.
Yeah, so we'll see if that could be changed at all in this as well. All right, Eric Von Eichen, should be interesting. We have an entire section of our website dedicated to driving change. You can read more about our efforts to get results for improved safety on our roads. That's at clickorlando.com/drivingchange.
Well, texting and driving takes lives every day, and right now Florida is one of just 4 states that does not allow officers to pull someone over for looking at their phone instead of the road. Year after year, politicians have killed that idea.
But this year, our News 6 driving change push to toughen up state law stands a better shot at getting results. Matt Austin is leading our push, and his recent trip to Tallahassee helped clear away one roadblock already.
This push started when I became a victim a few years ago. A texting driver destroyed my car, put 10 staples into the back of my head, and since then, News 6 has tried to get results and strengthen the law. We're hoping this year we can finally do that.
This year, a brand new host of leaders has taken over the state capitol. There's a new Senate president, new House Speaker, and a new governor. But advocates for road safety worry the same old system will keep failing Floridians.
Let us have our say and our chance in the legislature to send this bill to the governor so that it can be signed into law and we can keep our roads safe.
Sounds like democracy.
Democracy, a crazy radical concept, I know. Hear the bill. Hear the bill.
South Dakota and Ohio are in the process of passing their laws, so we're going to be one of 2 states. That's a big problem. So I'm hoping that we get this done this year.
State Rep Jackie Toledo wrote the latest House bill. It would make Florida a hands-free state, but it's been delayed in committee for more than 3 weeks. So I went to Tallahassee to find out why.
Can you guarantee, as the Speaker of the House this year, that these bills will come up in committee and actually be discussed and fleshed out?
We have 120 members in the House. No one person can guarantee anything. What I can tell you is I know why these bills had difficulty in the past. They were so linear.
The new House Speaker, Jose Oliva, wants the bill to focus on all distractions, not just cell phones. But here's classic Tallahassee. The chair of the committee where the bill has been sitting for weeks has the opposite issue.
Well, I think we need to make some modifications. You know, maybe going back to the prior bill is a good start.
Okay, all right. And I just talked to the House Speaker. He wanted to kind of broaden it into a distracted driving bill. How do you feel about that aspect?
Well, certainly, whatever we can do to make it appealing to the membership to be able to vote, to send something out of committee that says, you know, look, we're putting public safety first. So.
But News 6 was able to get results. Before we left Tallahassee, lawmakers put the bill on the agenda.
How high of a priority is it for you and the House to get some sort of distracted driving law passed this session?
It's a priority, but I don't think that it should require, if written properly, I don't think it should be a big lift.
Now, here's something to keep an eye on as we move forward. Once again, the Senate could be the key here. Last year, one senator killed the bill in committee. This year, the new bill doesn't pass through his committee, and the senator who wrote this year's bill is Wilton Simpson, and he is going to be the Senate president in 2020. That's good news. He's a powerful man. This is Matt Austin getting results for News 6.
We'll see. I know. I mean, it just takes, you don't realize how long it takes to get something like that done.
And just one person can stop
just
it all.
Throw it all. Yeah.
News 6 heads to Tallahassee to get results on stricter texting and driving laws. A House committee held their first meeting discussing the bill, which would make texting and driving a primary offense. The third state Senate committee approved the Senate's version yesterday. Anchor Matt Austin testified before a House committee today. He's been affected by a driver who admitted to texting and driving. Back in 2016, we first showed you this picture. He was at a traffic light when the driver plowed into him from behind. That's what was left of his car. The crash knocked him unconscious, leaving 10 staples in the back of his head. Matt now joins us live from Tallahassee. Matt, the bill passed the first committee today. That's great.
Yeah, Eric, and one thing that this building behind me, the Capitol, is not known for is agreement or unification. Those are not words you say here, but that is exactly what happened at today's subcommittee meeting. Family members who have lost children to distracted drivers bared their souls to these politicians today, and the politicians reacted in a very visceral, emotional way themselves. So let me take you inside this subcommittee meeting here for the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. We heard from 2 parents who lost their children to distracted drivers, and let me tell you, their words were powerful. They expressed strong support for this bill that would make texting and driving a primary offense, and it led to a 13-0 vote to push this through to the next committee in the House. Here are some of the reactions from the politicians, both Republican and Democrat.
I want to thank the people who came all this way to testify. Your stories are heartbreaking, but powerful.
So I am so delighted that we are at this point today where we can begin to eliminate some of the distractions that drivers are engaged in on our roadways.
I talked to my wife about it, and I had a horrible behavior of looking at my phone while I was driving. Because of you and because of this bill, I bought a little bracket for my phone. I have mounted that in the car, and I never touch my phone while I'm driving. So thank you for altering my behavior, and if this old dog can do it, anybody else can.
Now, you could hear right there the politicians responding in these very personal ways, which is not often something you hear at committee meetings. I do want to caution you. Now, last year, this same bill made it to the House floor, and the House voted 112-2 to put this thing along, but the Senate continued to block it all because of one person. So things, even though it looks like overwhelming unity right now, things can always get complicated here in Tallahassee. We will cover it for you every single step of the way, though. Guys, I'm going to send it back into you.
But so far, so good. Matt Austin in Tallahassee getting results. Thank you. To read more on this bill and see the timeline of progress that has already been made, head to clickorlando.com/drivingchange. And speaking of making the road safer, we are continuing driving change. News 6 is pushing for results on our roads.
The state House version of a new distracted driving bill had its first committee meeting today. News 6 anchor Matt Austin has been one of the most outspoken proponents of the bipartisan bill. In September of 2016, Matt was rear-ended at a stoplight by a driver who admitted to police he was texting behind the wheel. He told his story during a Transportation and Infrastructure Subcommittee meeting today. And Matt joins us now live from Tallahassee with the push to drive change. And Matt, you say this year seems different to you.
It does. It seems much different. Lisa, I've covered a lot of government meetings throughout the years. Most of them are mind-numbingly boring. Well, today's meeting was the exception. There were tears, there was passion, and there was even some humor.
It was a day of serious discussion that started off with a lighthearted joke.
Matt Austin, stay classy.
I am not Ron Burgundy. Another opportunity for Florida leaders to vote on a stronger texting and driving bill. And another appearance for me, testifying not as a journalist, but as a citizen, pleading for safer roads.
Right now, police officers can pull you over for speeding, seatbelt violations, registration, but they cannot pull you over for looking at your phone, which is crazy.
Today's State House Subcommittee meeting is the 28th time a bill has been introduced to strengthen Florida's ineffective texting and driving law.
Using cell phones while driving causes 1.6 million crashes each year. That's one of every 4 crashes that are caused by texting and driving.
HB 107 is originally introduced as a hands-free, no cell phone use by drivers bill. But after running into opposition before even being heard in its first House committee, this year's bill was rolled back to last year's version. Some people understood the change.
The system in Florida is that you take a little bite at the apple. And it's the system.
While others were not as encouraged.
So why is it this is so hard? Common sense. And if we are not on our way to hands-free legislation, then we are failing as legislators and as parents.
But when all was said and done, the bill passed 13-0, with some members of the committee optimistic that there is more work to be done.
I think the magic words I heard today were, we're going to make several incremental steps and we're going to get to hands-free.
We will see about that. Certainly a lot of work left to be done this session, though, before any of that can come up. Still 2 committees left in the House, 1 more in the Senate. Then they will be debated on the House and Senate floors, and we'll see if the governor will sign it. Guys, back to you.
We'll see. Matt Austin reporting live from Tallahassee for us tonight. Thanks, Matt.
No one should have to go through the loss of a family member and then have to make sure that the person who took them pays the penalty for that.
A woman mourning the death of her mom killed in a traffic crash. Tonight, the man who caused it has still not served his sentence 3 years after the collision. News 6 first exposed this story as a part of our Driving Change campaign. Now, the driver admits he was fumbling for his cell phone when he lost control of his pickup truck.
He got a ticket for careless driving. The punishment for that traffic infraction is not severe, but so far, the driver has not completed his sentence. Tonight, News 6 investigator Mike DeForest is getting results. And Mike, what is the driver's punishment supposed to be?
Lisa, Daniel Lightsey pleaded no contest to careless driving in that deadly crash, so he lost his driver's license for a few months and he had to pay a fine. The judge also ordered Lightsey to perform community service, but tonight, 3 years later, there is no evidence Lightsey has done any of that community service.
And that's all we want to see as a family, is that he's held accountable.
Marsha Waldron is seeking justice for her mother. 3 years ago, Martha Jackson was driving through Polk County when her car was crushed by an oncoming pickup truck. Daniel Lightsey told investigators he lost control of his truck while he attempted to reach for his phone.
In 2 seconds, her life ended, and his, there's really been no punishment at all.
As part of his sentence for careless driving, a judge ordered Lightsey to pay a $1,000 fine plus court costs. Lightsey also had to perform 120 hours of alternative community service to be served at a trauma center or hospital within 12 months.
So far, he hasn't done 1 hour of community service, from what I understand, anywhere.
I'm working on a story about the careless driving crash that you were involved in a couple of years ago. What's the status of the community service with that? I caught up with Daniel Lightsey, trying to find out whether he's completed any community service since causing that fatal collision more than 3 years ago. Have you done any community service?
I thought it would change his life, and it hasn't changed anything.
The Polk County Clerk of Court confirms Lightsey has not submitted any proof of his community service. When violators ignore the requirements of a traffic citation, the state will suspend their driver's licenses. That means Lightsey should not be driving.
His license is supposed to be suspended until he does the 120 hours of community service.
I got a copy of Lightsey's driving record from the state. It shows right here his driving privilege is valid today. He's allowed to drive right now.
I don't understand how that's possible. They were supposed to suspend it.
Last year, after Lightsey finally paid off his fine, the court clerk mistakenly submitted a request to reinstate his driver's license. After Waldron helped catch that error, the clerk's office attempted to get it suspended again. But as News 6 discovered, that never happened. Lightsey's driver privilege remained valid.
We lost the rock of our family, and I'm watching somebody walk around with basically no punishment, no remorse, no anything.
Tonight, our investigation is getting results. After I discovered Lightsey still has that valid driver's license, the Florida Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles began the process of suspending it once again. Until he shows proof that he has completed those community service hours, Lightsey will not be allowed behind the wheel.
And Mike, there have been several problems in this case. This is not the first big mistake to occur, right?
Mistakes right from the beginning. In fact, 3 years ago, when that happened, the judge somehow did not realize that Waldron's mother died in that collision. Now, the penalty for careless driving in a non-fatal crash is much lighter, just a small fine and nothing more. The victim's daughter caught that error, so the judge ordered Lightsey back to court, increased the fine, and added that community service requirement, which Lightsey apparently has not done yet.
Just like added salt in the wound, though, for this family. Everything seems to be a battle to have this man held accountable.
They say until he serves his sentence, they won't feel that closure.
Wow.
Yeah, you can see the pain on her face. Mike, thank you. I know you'll stay on this one.